It's been said that America is built on swamps and over unstable soil. Our cities are constantly at war with nature, and as our demands increase, so does the risk of disaster. With too much concrete in some places, we can cause the ground beneath us to shake and crack. But there's another kind of danger lurking in the depths below our feet. A small sudden collapse of the ground which swallows up whatever is unlucky enough to be standing on it. These holes in the ground have become a common sight in Florida and Guatemala. But sinkholes aren't picky when it comes to where they occur. They've even been spotted in the most unlikely of places, like this one in the middle of a highway in New Jersey, this one near St. Louis, or even this one which opened up in someone's backyard in Indiana. So it's only a matter of time until a sinkhole opens up somewhere near you. So what happens when a sinkhole swallows a city? We're going to answer that question and more today, so stay tuned. There's a lot to unpack here. The first thing we need to do is talk about what exactly a sinkhole is. In fact, it might not even be called a sinkhole at all. The term actually refers to any hole in the ground caused by the erosion of soluble rock. That means that no matter where you are, as long as you're standing on limestone, sandstone, or some other similar type of rock, you could be standing above a future sinkhole. These types of holes tend to form very slowly over time, but they can be accelerated by human activity. The major factor in their formation is water. Rainwater, especially when it's acidic, seeps into cracks and breaks down the rock from within. Over time, this creates cavities and the ground above eventually collapses. Even if you don't live on the Gulf Coast of Florida, there's still a chance you could see a sinkhole open up in your lifetime. For example, in 2013, the sinkholes opened up in Indiana. One was big enough to swallow a house. The state has over 17,000 known sinkholes, and scientists believe there could be many more that haven't been discovered yet. It is easy to think of Florida as being the most sinkhole-prone state because that is where they happen the most often. But the truth is that sinkholes can be found anywhere limestone is present, and the problem lies in how much of it we've covered with concrete. Here's why. When you build something out of concrete, it needs to be supported by the ground underneath it. As the soil erodes away, the concrete becomes top-heavy and will eventually break. And once that concrete breaks, it makes everything worse. If you walk outside and look around, you'll probably notice that a lot of our infrastructure is made out of concrete. It's cheap, durable, and resistant to water damage, which makes it ideal for use in building roads, sewers, and foundations for buildings. Unfortunately, that same durability can lead to catastrophic results. The roots of trees can also play a role in the formation of sinkholes. They naturally seek out water and sometimes find their way into cracks of concrete. As they grow, they can expand those cracks and eventually contribute to a sinkhole opening up. And of course, rainwater plays a part here, too. When it hits the ground, it tends to run off towards storm drains and rivers. We've filled so many areas with concrete, though, that the water doesn't have anywhere to go. That means that it's forced to travel underground through the cracks and crevices. This speeds up the erosion process and puts more pressure on the support beams, holding up our buildings and bridges. And then there's groundwater, water that has pumped into the ground for irrigation or for use in industrial processes, can also play a role in forming sinkholes. All of that water needs to come from somewhere, and removing so much of it leaves behind empty spaces in the ground. Eventually, the ground above collapses and we end up with another sinkhole on our hands. And while they may seem pretty localized, sinkholes are a symptom of a much larger problem. Our agricultural and industrial processes require large amounts of fresh water, which isn't always available. So we've had to get creative. Desalination plants remove the salt from seawater, leaving behind fresh water that can be used for drinking or irrigation. But they're expensive to operate and maintain. That's led to another solution becoming more popular. Water can be drawn from aquifers below the ground. The only problem is that it can take hundreds of years for that water to replenish itself. For example, here in Las Vegas, we rely heavily on groundwater to supply the city with potable water. But the Colorado River that feeds our reservoirs isn't always full. Because of droughts and overuse, the levels have dropped significantly in recent years. That means that we're pumping even more water from the ground than usual. While this method of extracting water is helpful in times of low water availability, it can also contribute to sinkholes opening up. Removing that much water leaves behind voids in the ground that can lead to instability and eventual collapse. What do sinkholes and toilets have in common? Well, the word toilet comes from the Middle English word toil, meaning a place to empty out waste. But unlike your home toilet, a sinkhole is a much less friendly place to take out your trash. If you tried to flush a car down one of these things, it would just get stuck halfway down before getting swallowed whole by the earth. And nobody wants to deal with a clogged sinkhole. Sinkholes are one of nature's ways of balancing things out. When we put too much strain on the land by covering it with concrete and pumping out the water, the ground beneath us literally gives way. And while it might seem like a small problem at first, the effects of a sinkhole can be devastating. They can appear suddenly and without warning, swallowing cars, houses, even people. And if they open up in the wrong place, they can bring down power lines, sewage systems, and other vital infrastructure. When that happens, we have to move fast to repair the damage. Sometimes that means rerouting traffic or closing down businesses. Other times, it could mean evacuating entire neighborhoods. Sinkholes also tend to get bigger over time. Once the ground gives way, the water starts flowing in, and that can make the sinkhole grow exponentially. The more water that flows in, the more erosion occurs, and the more likely it is that the ground will continue to collapse. Sometimes we can stabilize a sinkhole by injecting grout into the ground or by building retaining walls around the perimeter. But other times the only option is to fill it back in and hope that it doesn't happen again anytime soon. When a sinkhole appears, the city needs to act quickly to minimize the damage. First, they'll send out crews to assess the situation and determine the best course of action. Depending on the size and location of the sinkhole, they may need to close off the area and evacuate residents nearby. Crews will then begin the process of filling in the sinkhole, using pumps to remove any standing water and heavy machinery to move dirt and debris. This can be a slow and dangerous process, especially if the sinkhole is deep or unstable. Once the area is safe, the city will work to repair any damaged infrastructure such as sewer lines or roads. And then finally, they'll monitor the sinkhole to ensure that it doesn't reopen. In the end, dealing with a sinkhole is a costly and time-consuming process. But taking quick and effective action can help to minimize the damage and keep our communities safe. So the next time you see a sinkhole, take a moment to appreciate the hard work of the crews who made sure that it didn't cause any major problems. You might be wondering if there's anything you can do to protect yourself against a sinkhole. After all, they tend to happen without warning and can cause serious damage to your property. The good news is that there are some steps you can take to reduce your risk. First, be aware of the signs of a potential sinkhole, such as cracks in the foundation of your home or unexplained dips in your yard. You should also avoid building on top of limestone or other soluble rock if possible. And if you live in an area with sinkholes, make sure your home insurance policy covers sinkhole damage. By taking these precautions, you can help to ensure that you and your property are safe from the unexpected.